Good morning. Your nose is a little red, Charlie. Your nose is a little red, Charlie. Can you say welcome to the vlog? No. Can you say welcome to the vlog? It's about time to bring Charlie to school. 7:15, halfway done with editing today's vlog. You can't keep pressing the buttons.
Let's write letters and
And
numbers.
hopefully we'll get this out by like 10 in the morning and then head to the casino.
Level 1. Let's write letters and numbers.
Say bye to the people, Charlie.
Press a letter or a number button.
Bye, people.
Numbers.
Alright, Wednesday morning, Charlie's off at school. Got an errand to run, supposed to go pick up something for my wife before I head to the casino. Current vlog is uploading as we speak. Stuff is no joke. Takes quite some time. But anyway, as soon as that's up, we're gonna grab the errand, head to the casino, and then, be on our way. Alright, peace! Alright, mid-session update. Not much has happened yet. We've got 2 hands to discuss. We'll discuss those later, as I do want to get back to the table. But I'm about down $200. Been some crazy pots, so hopefully I can get into some action, but the game has slowed down considerably. Alright, let's get back to it. Gotta rep Twitch. Gotta rep Twitch. Today's dinner, we're gonna try to make it to In-N-Out real quick. Because In-N-Out is delicious. If you've never had In-N-Out, delicious. On our way to In-N-Out to grab a quick burger before we have to go pick up Charlie. I think there's just enough time to squeeze that in. And I mean, whenever there's time for In-N-Out, you always have to have In-N-Out. Let's go over some hands before we get there. Maybe I'll be able to squeeze one in. So one of the first hands I think I even play once I arrive. The game's a little short-handed once I arrive. Maybe it's like 6 or 7-handed. Follows me on the button. I have 7-6 of hearts. I open a 20. The small blind, who is a good, smart, thinking player, though a little bit of a spaz, defends. And we go heads up to a flop, which comes Jack 10-4 rainbow. He checks. And I think this flop is just going to be hitting his defending range really hard. I think he's going to have a lot of Broadway hands, Ace Jack, King Jack, Queen 10, things like of that nature that I just don't expect him to fold, especially not for one bet unless I'm going to go multiple streets. And I'm not trying to go multiple streets with pretty much 0 equity. So I check back. The turn is a 6 of clubs, so I turn a pair, and now there's 2 clubs. He now leads 50 into the pot of about 35, I think, after they take the rake. Maybe it's a 40. But anyway, an oversized bet. I look at him kind of funny, and he plays PLO as well, and he's like, yeah, I hate the P part of PLO, meaning that, he likes overbetting. So I think about it for a bit, and I feel like his range is really heavily weighted towards flush draws, possibly combo, straight, and flush draws. I just realized that my range is really capped, that when I'm checking back this flop, I don't have a very good hand. Maybe I myself could have some like ace king, ace queen type hand, so he wants to fold that out. I call with my pair of 6s, and the river is now an offsuit 8, and he bets like 115. I don't like it that he's continuing here, especially for what looks like a value bet sizing. I expect that if he's going to be bluffing, maybe he's going to bomb again. But at the same time, he's realizing that a lot of things miss, and so he doesn't have to be betting too large in case, that he can just get me to fold out my ace-high hands. Think about it for a while. I just think he's got too many missed draws. The real combo of club draws that I'm really afraid of is like Queen 9 of clubs. Even 8 9 of clubs with rivers of pair. I might just check for showdown now. So really there's only one exact combination of clubs, Queen 9 of clubs, that I'm worried about. I end up heroing. Sure enough, feeling great because at least I was right. He has Queen 9 of clubs. So it feels good to make that turn call. And I still like my river call because, I stuck with my read. He's going to have a pretty wide range of club draws here, and there's only one of which I lose that he's value betting. Another cheat code, pro tip, get chopped chilies on your In-N-Out burger. Chopped chilies are where it's at. This hand, under the gun, opens to 25, folds to me in the cutoff. I have 10-8 offsuit. This is a player I want to play a pot against. The game had been kind of tight, and these are spots where I think if you're going to open up, these are exactly where you open up. Don't be opening like Jack 10 offsuit under the gun. Play pots in position against those who you believe have a capped range, so that A, either you can bluff them later on in the hand, or B, when you make a big hand against their like one pair type holding, you're going to get paid off. So here when he opens this big early, I'm going to assume that he's either got A, a bigger pocket pair, or he's going to have like 2 Broadway cards. And me being in position, I'm just going to be able to outplay him a lot post-flop on different boards. So I call, we go heads up to a flop, which comes 9-7-7 rainbow. He leads for $35 into me. I think he's going to have ace high here a lot. I'm thought about raising just to get the ace highs to fold, but in case he does actually have an overpair, I think I can call here and rep a 7 on later streets. If I did have a 7, I'm just always going to call the flop here anyway, so I'm going to play it as if I had a 7 in case I do end up missing. The turn is an 8. Now I make a pair and he checks. It feels to me quite possible like he does in fact have ace high. Obviously, this board isn't a great board if he does, in fact, have something like jacks through aces, so I can see why he'd be in check call mode. But at the same time, once he checks, I'm going to be betting here, A, for protection, B, for value with my 8, and C, to set up river bluff in case I do, in fact, believe that he has an overpair. He ends up calling fairly quickly, and the river's an offsuit 3. Given that he called the turn, I feel like he's going to have overpairs here a decent percentage of the time. I don't believe that he's be calling me on the turn here with ace king high, just because on the flop, the draws that do exist, like 10-8, 8-6, jack 10 for a gut shot to the nuts, they all get there on the turn once the turn's an 8. Like, he can't beat any of those. So, not to say that he couldn't possibly just call with ace king high anyway to try to, like, beat an 8. But anyway, so he checks. And I feel like I need to bet big here in order to get to possibly get his overpairs to fold. I've been experimenting a lot lately with oversized bets, just overbets as bluffs as well as for value. Mostly what I've been finding, I've been getting folds. I have been called like once or twice, I think, when bluffing, but mostly it's just getting folds. So I'm going to continue to kind of experiment with this. And this spot, as I did say, I feel like he's got an overpair. I think if I bet some standard bet, he's going to call with his overpairs. So I elect to bet 310, and he goes in the tank. And I mean the tank. Like, he's swimming around, bloop, 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 taking forever. He got pretty close to me actually thinking about calling the clock on him, but I didn't want that to affect his decision. In fact, it felt like there was a point at which he was about to call, and then it looked like he was leaning towards folding. So since it seemed like he was leaning towards folding, I decided I was just going to keep my mouth quiet and not try to let him change his mind. He ends up finally folding, and for some reason I thought it was kind of weird. I asked him, like, do you have ace high? And he goes, yeah. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, at ace king. And so I was just like, and you thought about calling? And he's like, yeah, if you bet smaller I would have called. I'm like, what did you think I had? And he goes, oh, I thought you missed your flush draw. I'm like, flush draw? It was 9-7-7, no suit. He's like, well, the turn was the 8 of diamonds. There's a flush draw on the turn. I mean, wow. Okay, these pros, man, they're thinking players. I guess he realizes I could be floating here sometimes, picking up equity on the turn and just barreling off. It was kind of interesting. It was interesting that my river bomb ended up being a merge between a bluff and value, because I almost got called by ace high, it seems. Interesting. We've got another hand against the player from earlier who had the queen 9 of clubs. He opens like middle position to 20. I'm in the cutoff with 4-5 of spades. This is a spot where I sometimes will 3-bet to isolate, obviously take control of the hand. The thing is that the big blind is a player who I want in the pot. He's likely to make big mistakes post-flop. And I think this is important. You have to sometimes think about who are the other players in the hand. There are often times where I'm going to flat certain opponents who I think are good with strong hands, just to let in worse players behind me so that they can make incorrect decisions post-flop. I think this is kind of like an interesting and important concept that a lot of people don't think about. They just think about like their relative strength or what they want to be doing with their own hands and then kind of navigate from there. So I call. Unfortunately, the player who I wanted in the pot from the big blind does fold for 15 more. We go heads up to a flop, which comes ace, queen, 6, rainbow. He checks. I think he's going to be really wide here. Like I said, he opens fairly wide on this kind of a board. If he's going to have something like 9-10, he might just give up the fact that I called him pre-flop. So I bet 25, and he calls. Once he calls, I kind of feel like he either has a weak ace, possibly a queen like king, queen, queen, jack, or some gut shots to the nuts like king, jack, jack 10, king 10. The turn is a 4, so now I pick up equity. I can hit a 4 or 5 to either make trips or 2 pair. He checks again, and as I said, because of the fact that I think that he's going to be calling here fairly wide on the flop, I think I have to keep barreling. I bet 65. He calls fairly quickly. The river is an ace, and I think this is just a really bad card for my bluffing range. A, if he's got a queen, he's very likely to call. B, he also could have hands like ace-5 suited, things like that, which are just weak aces that are just never folding on this river. Even if I decide to go 3 streets here, he's just not going to be able to find a fold because he's under-repped his hand and he's going to just talk himself into a call. So despite the fact that I feel like he just has a queen here very often, I think this is a bad spot to be bluffing. I check back, and he ends up winning with queen 3 of diamonds. I feel good about my check back for all the reasons that I kind of just said. I don't think I was possibly getting a fold from him. He might have folded just because I've gone 3 streets, and I'm like likely to have an ace. But I'm fine with the check back. We now have the hand of the session. Actually, there's actually 2 hands of the session, this one and the next one. So a player who I know is fairly tight opens to 20 in early position. He's an older Asian gentleman, kind of looks like Yoda. I had actually just previously kind of had a joking conversation with him about how the tight players in the game should leave because there were some action players who were next up into our game, and he felt the need to kind of bring himself up and defend himself, that he's just been getting bad cards. And I'm like, well, I'm not calling you a tight player, but I guess, he felt the need to say that but then he ended up saying, he's like, yeah, I am a tight player. So I told him, I was like, you better not be telling that to me to try to bluff me later. And so we kind of joked about it. Anyway, he opens to 20. I have ace-king offsuit. And I think that calling or 3-betting here is fine. Given that he's opening early, I think he's going to be fairly strong. However, I don't want to just call here and go multi-way just because he's opening early position. So I make it 65. Folds back to him. And he kind of goes to grab calling chips, thinks for a bit, and then ends up raising, I think, like 140 or 150 more. I think he ended up saying like 155 more, but then put in like 145 more or something, and so the dealer, it's like 140 more. I don't love the spot, but at the same time, I'm just not going to be folding him here. Given that we kind of had this joking conversation about him being tight, I think my hand's just too strong to be folding to a 3-bet here. He's got another like 650 behind. So I don't love the spot, but I'm just not going to be folding quite yet. I call, and the flop comes ace-6-5, all hearts. He thinks for a bit, goes back, checks his cards. Once he goes to check back his cards, I think it's fairly obvious that he didn't flop top set of aces because he wouldn't be needing to check to see if he has a heart. So I think it's quite likely either he has ace-king and wants to know if he has the king of hearts, or that he has kings/queens and wants to see if he's got the heart. And he ends up jamming it in for like 650. The dealer counts it down. The dealer's like, it's 800. I'm like, what? They end up finally getting it right. It's like 650, 640 something. And this kind of seems like a slam dunk spot, just because like once I flop top in a spot where I just know he doesn't have aces or feel like he doesn't have aces, it's kind of a snap off. But I think the spot's a little bit closer than it appears because I think when he jams here, he's quite likely to have ace-king himself. So it feels like he could be free-rolling me if he has the king of hearts. That being said, if he had the king of hearts, I wouldn't think that he would just be jamming here with like top pair, top kicker, and the nut flush draw. I did, in fact, earlier see him kind of get out of line with ace-queen. It was for a lot less money on an ace-high board, where he ended up saying like, oh, see, I am tight. So there's some part of me that thinks he could possibly have like ace queen suited here and just not know what else to do with it besides rip it. But I do think that also you can obviously have, you know, kings with a heart, queens with a heart. I think those are the hands he's going to be jamming. At the end of the day, like I said, I kind of know that he doesn't have aces. I feel like either I'm going to be chopping a large percent of the time or I have to fade a heart. I make the call. The turn is a heart. River brings 4 to a straight. So the board is actually like ace, 5, 6, 7, 8, or like ace, 6, 7, 8, 9 with 4 hearts. And he says, all right, I guess you win then. Music to my ears. He rolls over 2 black queens, which I was quite surprised to see. I think he's kind of losing his mind here. Maybe he was trying to play that tight image because I don't really see what he's trying to accomplish. He ended up saying, kind of muttering something about how, like, yeah, he thought I could fold my hand or something. So he obviously just isn't, like, thinking things through about how, like, what he's representing when he's, like, jamming this large here. And what kind of hands I will be folding. So I don't really know what he was trying to accomplish here by jamming the black queens. But I'm happy to catch the punt. How's your snack, Charlie?
Yum.
Yum?
Oh,
Yeah, we're going to go. Last hand to discuss before we go home. Do this with a quickness. Not much to discuss here, but it is a hand I have to talk about because it ended up being a big pot. I think it's a straddle pot. It's 3, 5, 10. Early position opens to 25. I have pocket 10s on the button. I decided just flat. Given his small open, I can definitely see myself 3-betting here because I think people are going to open larger with bigger hands. But at the same time, it's kind of nearing the end of my session, kind of locking it up. Don't really want to be getting too wild here with pocket 10s, especially against this specific opponent. He's not anybody too crazy, so I think he's going to have a fairly tight range here. I call with pocket 10s. And now the small blind, he makes it 80 more to 105. The preflop opener folds. He's playing about 900 more, so I am getting like decent odds to flop a set. I would rather be getting something more along the lines of like 15 to 1. I do also like the fact that I am in position and get to play the hand in position. I call the 80 more. Flop comes like 10-9-3 with a suit, and now he just leads for like 275, just bombs it. And fairly obvious to me, he's got an overpair here that he's just not folding. He has like 520 left or something like that. I just rip it in there because I don't want any bad turns to come off and slow him down. He snaps it off and is just like, oh, what pair do you have? Yeah, you're good. And I show him pocket 10s, turns a brick, river's a jack, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry about that, and then rolls over pocket kings. So he's kind of giving me the old fake slow roll angle to be funny. Those are the best ones. And the only thing really to discuss in this hand is I think he made like a really big mistake here just bombing this flop. It's just a really bad move because I'm not continuing with like any of my hands that have like no equity. Like if I have jacks here somehow, I'm going to fold those when he bets this big. Like if I did somehow have like ace king of spades here, I'm probably getting in it anyway, so he doesn't need to be bombing this large to protect his hand, quote unquote. Or if like somehow I have a queen jack of spades or some monster draw. Like if I have an underpair, I'm folding anyway, so there's just really no reason for him to be bombing here. I think this is a mistake a lot of players make where they're like, I've got like this big hand, I want to protect it, I don't want to lose a big pot. But instead all they're really doing is A, costing themselves in the long run because they're never getting called by worse. And then when they're beat, they essentially have to stack off. Like he realizes on the flop when he bets this big, he's probably losing, but now he can't fold. So it's just a mistake on all fronts. Anyway, that's all. Charlie's getting antsy. We got to get home. Charlie, we got to get home. You want to go home?
yeah.
Okay, we're going to go home. That calls it for today's session. Ended up winning 1471, something like that. I think 1471. Can't remember off the top of my head. Awesome. I've been running super good. It's been feeling good. Obviously, like if he spikes a 2-outer here, I end up losing 500 on the day anyway in this big pot. So all of these hands are pretty swingy. Feels good to be running good. I feel like I'm playing good. All right, let's get to it. Peace. Reading a book?
Yeah.
Can you find me all the triangles, Charlie? Where are all the triangles?
1.
Yes. Are there any more triangles?
Over there.
That's good. Where else? Do you see the other triangles, buddy?
Hey, yummy man.
Yeah. Was that a watermelon?
Yeah.
Is watermelon yummy?
Yeah.
Do you want strawberries? Do you see any strawberries? No. How about lemon? Do you see lemon?